All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tara's Voice. I am so excited because you're going to get to meet someone who's known me since I was 14 years old. Probably one of the longest, oldest friends, not by age, maybe by age, and definitely not by age in life. My friend Meredith Galto. So she is here, and we were just laughing. She's funny. She filled out her podcast form, and it wrote, "What's your title?" And she's like, "I'm a regular person," which made me think, okay, everybody else who's been on is not regular. But I love this because has the driest sense of humor of anybody that I know because you are funny, but you don't think you're funny. Like, I don't think you try to be funny. Your view on life. You always have me laughing. So I'm very excited that everyone's going to get to hang out with you this morning. I love that you put you're a friend, a recovering lawyer, a mom, a tennis coach, and this was my favorite, a budding professional podcast guest.
Yes, yes. This is my debut. So,
So, and I felt it's funny how you feel a little nervous to ask people. Like, you were one of the people I was like, should I ask her to be on? Because I've always said you are so funny. You should have your own talk show. I would watch all the time if you had your own like daily show. We've always said that. So I have no idea what our question is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and share our screen and see
okay.
what pops up. And I'm super excited because of our new branding colors now. So this is super fancy with our new branding. If you are watching live on YouTube, you can see our new branding colors. But we're going to share our wheel. We have no idea what's going to pop up, but I'm going to spin the wheel. Let's see what our question
Okay.
is. With all this new fancy yellow in there, a little brighter. And our question is, it's like right on the line. Okay, so this is from Yvonne McHugh. And if you have an irrelevant question, please drop it in the comments. We will add it to our wheel and maybe your question will get chosen. The question is, what would you do all over again if you could? What would you do all over again if you could? I feel like that is very open-ended
It
and
is.
could go in a lot of different directions. But what's your
Yeah. Like, is it something that I actually did do and I would like to do again and do it better? Or is it something that I would make a different choice and do completely differently? I don't know. I'm like trying to think of what I should answer, like how I should take this. I would say if I could do something over, I would probably take a different career path.
This is
Yeah.
shocking to me.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just say this because for those of you who don't know Meredith, she's my smarty friend. Is that a word? She's my smarty pants friend. Um, we went to high school together, but she's a UPenn graduate. This is like she's Ivy smart. Like,
It was
okay, so now
easier to be a UPenn graduate back when I went. It's
oh, don't no,
so
don't.
yeah.
It was still like a nobody, they didn't take anybody. So no, I'm not gonna let you go there. I'm gonna say that you're still a smarty pants. What but this is fascinating because you were corporate, right? Corporate law?
I was in commercial litigation at big law firms, yes. Hmm.
Like fancy law firms.
Fancy law firms, yes.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
why would
Yeah.
you want to okay, I'm so fascinated. What would you do instead?
I think I would do something a little more creative. I think as I've aged, I've kind of come to own like that I enjoy being creative and not just being like, this is what you need to do with your life. I think I grew up in a very rigid, like, this is what is expected of you. And so, I just kind of stayed that path. And while I had other interests, such as writing or like even comedy or entertainment or like I love TV. It's like you couldn't say that out loud, right? Like I
Mm.
love TV and stories and things like that. So I would have loved to like produce or, even script supervise because I'm good with details and things like that. But like that was never an option for me. It never felt like an option. Of course, it was an option, but it would have kind of blown my whole world up. So I went to law school and then I, took a high paying job in a law firm because that's what I was supposed to do. So I think if I had a little firmer sense of self, maybe I would have tried something else. But so I guess that's what I would have done.
I feel like you must have an alter ego because so I'm just give you guys a picture of how I view Meredith growing up. She was in all the AP classes. So we were in AP English together because I was good at writing and history, but I was horrible at math and bio. So you were in like all the stuff, all the, math, bio, everything. I only got the English and the history, right? So I always kind of saw you as science smart, as
Hmm.
like, kind of that I don't even know if that's true anymore, left brain, right brain, but like that little bit more like science, STEM kind of. I was a drama kid, a theater kid, a choir kid. You were not. You were so Meredith went to the Junior Olympics. So
Yes,
she's
I
a
played
sports
sports.
kid, right? So she played sports, she did science, she was very so then this idea that you were secretly a theater kid that we didn't know about is wild to me. Like I didn't see you do anything in that art arena. That was like a very separate life for us. Even though we
Yes.
were good friends, it was like we had these two
Yes,
totally different
I showed up
tracks.
with flowers at the end of your performance and we went to the diner. But like I was not the person in the t-shirt in the back or like cast parties or anything like that. I don't think I wanted to perform. I think I just wanted to be creative, like behind the
Hmm.
scenes perhaps. And I'm not sure theater would have been my calling. Um but like I've only gone to LA a handful of times and I am literally like that person with stars in their eyes. Like I could see myself there, like just like the industry, and it might have eaten me alive and spit me out and I could have been like destroyed mentally, and like I'm totally open to that potential. But like law, I enjoyed being a lawyer. I enjoyed a lot of things about it, but being in a client-based industry is pretty hard, especially like I was a single parent for a pretty long time, so it was a hard job to maintain and compete with, especially as a woman with a kid. Um, so I think I would have found a little more fulfillment, like in genuine enjoyment in something else. So.
Okay. So now I'm curious, what is stopping you now from
So many things,
pursuing that?
like 100 things, right? Family obligations, menopause, like.
So, Meredith, oh my gosh. So we were laughing before we started recording because let me tell you, this premenopause, I don't know if it's menopause or premenopause. I don't know where they determine the difference is. But it is real and legit, and nobody
Mhm,
is talking about it. And I
mhm,
think I had done like a group text message. Like, there's four of us that went to high school together. A group text message being like, "Are any of you guys on drugs? Because I think I need some drugs."
mhm,
Um, I just started getting just recently, like in the last couple of weeks, these like you wake up at night and you're covered in sweat. So it's
mhm.
not a hot flash. I haven't had any of that during the day, but the first time it happened, I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe the room is just hot. And then the second time it happened twice in the same night. And I remember reaching back, feeling my back, and I was like, oh, I've got like sweat dripping down my back.
Mhm,
But I'm also a lizard. I love the heat. Like when I lived just with Emily and my daughter and I kept my house at least 80 degrees year round. I love the heat. So I was like, oh, this is what everybody complains about, but this is fantastic. I feel like
mhm.
I'm in a sauna. I'm like, I am down for this. I love this, which I feel like is kind of betraying women.
It'll
Um,
get old. It'll get old. Like it'll
really?
start disrupting your sleep in a real way. Hopefully it won't. Like hopefully you'll be
I'm
like,
like, oh, it's nice and toasty
you
in
know,
here. But
yeah.
yeah, this is like a real thing that I wake up and I feel like it's like Russian roulette how I'm gonna feel when I wake up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just like coping with like of all the phases of life, like childhood, preteen, puberty, teenager, young adult, this is my least favorite. Like this is
Interesting.
my least favorite from like just a biological, like body changing perspective.
Now
So
this is interesting because I think for most people on the outside, you have a pretty cushy, comfy, ideal life, right?
yes, a
So
thousand percent.
that would make me be like, huh, so there's something in your life you don't like. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I don't like menopause. No, yeah, like I mean, I think we all struggle like when we get to a certain age of like the time that has passed and the time we have left, and like how are we going to make changes that make us happy while like acknowledging what we've been through and how it's created the person we are today. And so, I think day to day, I definitely have like a good, cushy life. I do have, two jobs that I enjoy because I get to teach and like be a part of things like, but are there days where I feel really blue? Like, really like, oh, I got to empty the dishwasher twice today. Like you mentioned, like I have an Ivy League degree, I am a lawyer. It's like, oh, I'm like so awesome at folding sweatshirts. Like, I'm in service to people who are going on to doing like great things that they really enjoy. So sometimes it is like, well, what about me? Like, and I
Mm.
do feel like I am scared to be like, hey guys, I want to like try to write a script or something like that. Because anytime I broach stuff like that, it's like, well, how does that affect me? And so I'm working, like, not me, like my family goes, how does that affect me? And it's like, don't worry, your dry cleaning will still get picked up. Right.
Sure.
So, and we're working on that, like as a family.
Well,
So,
I think that's tough because what you're saying is, I'm challenging maybe the role that I've had for a really long time in this family. We all have roles in our family of like what everybody, this is,
mhm,
what this person does. And I think subconsciously, maybe we take on some roles based on what we saw our family,
mhm,
right? Like that wasn't necessarily because Meredith and I have talked a lot about this of me kind of this. I grew up in a family where being a mother meant you were a martyr. And the more of a martyr you were, the better of a mother
yeah,
you
to
were.
the point where you don't even have a microwave. Like,
Right, right. I grew up without a microwave, right? Because
yeah,
microwaves kill people because you're nuking your food, right? I
yeah,
grew up like I wasn't allowed to drink soda or eat cold cuts or, you know, I mean, a hot dog. I mean, that was like a big deal over in the summer because otherwise you're going to
mhm,
get leukemia, right? So, um, and that this was the house that I grew up in, and Meredith, saw that growing up. But it was also very much like motherhood is a sacrifice, and if you
mhm,
do that, the more you sacrifice, the better mom you are, and that's been something I've had to really work through now, particularly as Emily has gone to college, to say, wait, is that really what motherhood is? Is that really what
mhm.
makes a good mom? So I think we all have roles in our life, right? So it sounds to me like you've had this role of caretaking for everybody else. And now
Yeah,
you're saying, wait, maybe I don't want that role anymore.
yeah.
And that's scary
I
for
don't know if
everybody.
I ever wanted it. Like we have a unique situation where my husband's job is like a family business. So, I can't compete with that. Like I can't be like, my job is more important than running a family business. So I kind of fell into this role of, you know, part-time employee, full-time mom. And at first you're kind of like, oh, this makes momming so much easier, right? Like, but then you do fall into that martyr role. Like it's a lot of work, like especially during COVID, right? So like right before COVID, I had left the university I was working at just because I was getting bored. Working in academics is pretty cyclical. And I wound up home with these two kids, full time. And it's like, okay, they can be on devices all day, or I can work every single day to keep them off devices and like do stuff. Even when I'm tired and cranky or sick or whatever, like I got to put them first. And it was like, okay, no one got on a device or a screen until 3:30 in the afternoon every single day. And it was just like burnout for me too, So
Yeah.
I think sometimes I'm growing as a mom to be like, it's not just about them, right? Like I didn't give up my whole self just because these people seem to have more important outwardly pursuits, right? So, and that's kind of where I am like mentally. And I think that holds me back too,
Mm.
you know? So it's tough.
I think we had talked about this once because both of us, for different reasons, we've had very different careers, but both of us kind of knew deep down, I don't want to be this full-time stay-at-home mom. And
Mhm.
I think there's certain people like my daughter, she wants to be a full-time stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if that's where you're being fulfilled, that's a great role. Like, right. I think we need more hands-on moms. Like they need somebody to run the PTA. They need somebody to
Yeah,
do
and
these
it's not
activities,
me. It's
right?
not me. I'm like, I'll write a check, but I don't wanna be at the book fair. Like,
Right.
I'm good.
And
So,
that's I think what's tough is and we had that where I think we were like, I've always wanted to have some kind of career. Like I don't want to stay home and play. Like I even found this when I was little. I found it really hard to like play.
yeah,
Like she wanted me to play with her and I'd be like, I'm really good at keeping you alive from
yeah,
cancer. I don't know how
yeah,
to play Play-Doh.
yeah. Well, and that's like the like my Jillian would be like, "Let's play," and I'd be like, "Okay, we're gonna play doctor, and you can like check my ear," so I could lay down and just like like zone out. And I'd be like, well, don't you need to check like my knees? Like, don't I need a shot? Just because I didn't want to be like with the dolls or like the Play-Doh or, I was never that one that's like, oh, I hope I grow up and I make like Cheerio necklaces. Like, I'm not a creative mom. Like, I don't like if you ask my kids and my nieces and nephews who the least fun parent is, it's me. Like, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not like that's not my strength, but everybody's alive, fed, educated, clothed, like all the basic needs are always met.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I totally agree. This was not what I intended to do with my life. So,
Yeah. And I think I mean, if you were a man, you'd buy a red convertible right now and have a
yeah,
midlife
right,
crisis,
right.
right? I think we
Yeah.
all have that where we go, "How did I get here in
Uh-huh.
life? This isn't what I thought I would be doing,"
Yeah.
you
I mean, it's
know?
not a bad place. I don't mean to be like I'm in a bad place. It's just the other thing that comes with not working full time is a lot of time to think about
Mm.
stuff. And that can sometimes be a double-edged sword, right? Because you have the time, but then you are also like, oh, let me ruminate on, something from 1982 where I like and it's like just let it go. So,
So this is so funny. I follow this girl on TikTok. She is in Canada. She lives in like the backwoods nowhere in Canada. And I wish I knew her name because I would share her to promote her socials. She apparently used to live in like a city. She was like in an apartment, lived in a city, and was like depressed, had anxiety, had all these mental health issues, literally left everything, built a house on the back of a flatbed truck that looks like a tree house, but it's like one of these like I mean it's basically an RV, but it's on a flatbed truck and it looks like a little magical tree house. And so she lives in this teeny tiny magical treehouse truck in the middle of Canada where it's cold. Like the woman has to chop all of her own wood just to stay alive.
mhm,
And she still works jobs. Like she'll have to travel like hours to get into town to like work a job. And, if she needs groceries or milk, she has to really plan for it because you have to travel in Canada where there's snow and weather. And so a good part of her life now is keeping herself alive.
mhm,
And she was talking about how she has no more anxiety, she has no more depression, all of her mental health issues are totally fine. And I was watching a video that she said, part of it was when I was in my apartment, I had all this time. I had all this time to
mhm.
think and
Yeah.
I was depressed. And she said, "Honestly, I don't have time to think right now. I'm chopping wood. I'm fixing something in the truck. I have so much that I have to do just to maintain my livelihood. I don't have time to think about whether I'm fulfilled or depressed, and I'm not
Mhm.
depressed."
Yeah.
And it made me think, I wonder if in our pursuit of comfort and technology and life getting quote easier, where like our full time, like as humans, when we think of like how we've evolved, like before us, most of humans, they had to forage their food and hunt and build a
Mhm.
fire and like do all this really physical work to stay alive. And we don't need to do that anymore. So now we're stuck with our thoughts and we're all depressed.
It's not a
Like,
bad theory. I mean, it is. And like I will say for me, like I'm not gonna move to a tiny truck tree house in Canada. Like although I tend to go like to extremes, I don't have a lot of like gray area. Um, but it is like my mind can be my worst enemy sometimes. I
Mm,
am really good in a crisis that I did not make though. So like if having to do all those chores is like borderline, like it's life or death, right? Like I'm your girl. Like if I did not cause the crisis, I'm great. I'm calm, I'm thoughtful. If I caused it, it's my mistake or something. I'm a hot mess. All I'm doing is running around
ah,
apologizing, hoping people forgive me. Like I just I can't do it. But yeah, but I'm not ready for that level of
of of escape.
extremism. It's also funny like she's doing all this and she's like I have to chop my own wood, but I'm going to like be on TikTok. Like the
Yes.
disparity of those two things,
Well,
like
I'm filming myself chopping my
yeah,
wood on
like I'm
TikTok.
so primitive. I have to chop my own wood, but I'm gonna put it on TikTok and hope I get more
Hey,
followers.
I'm all about monetize the life, right? And there's something funny. I remember you had said one time, "Oh my gosh," and now I thought it and then it just came out of my head, and maybe this is the menopause thing. I'll have to remember what it
Mhm.
was that you were talking about with the crisis. But I think it's interesting to me is if maybe in our life being easier, we've made it mentally harder,
Harder. Hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what if I didn't have time to think about those things? I remember my grandmother, because everybody with menopause, right? You're kind of like, okay, I was thinking about my mom. I'm like, did my mom go through menopause, right? Like, what
Right,
did she
right.
say?
But our moms didn't talk about it. Like
They
my
didn't talk about
did
it.
not
And
talk about it.
I still feel like we're barely talking about it. It's still a little hush
Mhm.
hush, like, hey, are you getting these weird, like, is anybody else on drugs? Like, does anybody else hate their family? And so uh now, and again, this is this train of thought, right? Like, I'm like, is this normal? Is this menopause? Or is this just because we have too much stuff in our brains? Why do I
Mhm.
lose my train of thought? And now I can't remember what I was talking about. So
Yeah.
there you go. It just absolutely
It's
goes, like, I'll walk into a room and I'm like, why the heck did I walk in here?
yeah.
What am I doing here?
Yeah. Like I'll sing in my head like to do something like a chore, right? Like book Margot's dentist, because I'll remember it in the shower or something like where I can't really do anything about it. So the whole shower I'll be singing like book Margot's dentist. Margot's my 11-year-old. And then I'll get out of the shower still singing the song, like get dressed, pick up my phone and be like, why did I pick up this phone?
Yeah,
And it's like I just spent so much energy trying to remember
to
one thing
remember.
and I still forgot it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and
So
like
we want
I
to
used to
know.
know like people's phone numbers and like I could memorize anything. It was one of my
Mm.
superpowers and now I like can't function.
That makes me feel so much better about my life. This is what I remember. I remember you got an RV. I remember your husband came home
Okay.
with an RV,
Yes.
and you guys were going to have these fabulous family memories and trips.
We
And
were not.
you said the thing, this stuck out to me when I talk about your sense of humor, because you were totally deadpan about it. I almost peed my pants. You were like, RVing is not a vacation. It's me just being a mom in a moving, like,
Yes.
house. Like, this isn't a
Uh-huh.
vacation to me. It's just I'm momming someplace else. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
great analogy. So did you keep the RV?
No, we sold it after a
I
year.
want to
Yeah, the
hear the RV
RV,
drama.
it was one of those things like he works really hard. He thought it would be a good idea. He thought that like the family could go on these trips and stuff. But the thing about RVing is like one, you need time to do it, right? And our kids are like playing sports and doing activities and like where are these magical weekends where we're just gonna like hook up an RV and like go places and also to go like the really beautiful places like the national parks and state parks, you have to be a pretty good RVer. Like you have to like boondock, like be off the electrical and water and stuff of an RV park. So in my mind, I was like, I'm in for that. But of course, we took it like to an RV park like an hour away from where we live for our first like try. And we pulled in and you have to level it and do all this shit. Sorry, I'm not sure if we're allowed to swear on these. You have to charge the RV so the fridge is working and like it takes a day to get ready. And then on top of it, I'm like food, water, like all the mom stuff. More laundry to do, right? Because you have to put sheets on beds and whatever. We get there. He pulls up, he's trying to level it, do this. I refuse to get out of the car. I'm like, I am not getting out of the car. Like I didn't realize that RVing is basically parking next to other RVs and then like sitting outside your RV and like chatting. And I'm not a chatter. Like this is not like what I want to do with my life. So I like strangers like and Jeremy's like, "Hey, we'll chat." I'm like, "I'm out." So we spent the night in the RV and then the next morning, the RV had like tilted because it wasn't level anymore. So everybody's kind of sliding off their beds. And we all look at each other. And the truck at that point, we had detached from the RV and we were supposed to stay there 2 nights. And I said, Jeremy, take me home. We all went home. We left the RV there. We went home.
You left the
Yes.
RV.
We went to Dunkin' Donuts. We got coffee. We got donuts. We like regrouped. We went home. We brushed our teeth. We took a shower. And then we went back and got the RV and we left. We didn't stay the second night.
Oh
So
my God.
and he kept trying to get me to like go. I'm like, no,
Was that the only
no.
time you went, or did you do it
That was the only
again?
time I went. He took it on 2 other trips. One with a friend of his, and then one him and another dad took they have 2 girls and Margot. They went camping, and we went down the shore. my friends, we did a girls trip down the shore, snack, dinner, wine, much better choice. And they had a blast. It's, I mean, in a like kind of hovering over yourself, watching you have this experience, like we'll laugh about this someday way.
Okay.
But yeah, so then Jeremy sold the RV. But luckily, it was still pandemic times, so there was a market for it and it moved pretty quickly. But
Somebody
I was
wanted the
like,
RV.
I rarely put my foot down, like where I'm like, no, family, like I understand this is an interest of yours, but the RV, I was like, this is a hard pass. Like I am not doing this.
Now, what's really funny is about like 3 or 4 episodes ago, I had my friend Elisa on, and they are full-time RVing. That's what we talked about. She like sold her home, gave up her cushy teacher job, and now they are RVing around the country, living this like they go to all these national parks. But I will also say these are Colorado people.
Hmm.
Meredith and I are Jersey girls, so we'll
Right.
preface that. And her daughter is grown, so it's just the two of
Yeah.
them. They don't have kids,
No.
they have the freedom. They both, have created careers now that they can do that. Because I secretly dream of that, like the freedom.
No, you don't.
So I'm like, yeah, and I will say that when you told this is a couple of years ago, when you told us that Jeremy came home with the RV, I remember being so jealous. I was like, oh my gosh, I want an RV, and now Meredith has an RV, and she doesn't even want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, we're Jersey girls. Like we're not this is going against the grain for us a little bit. Like you blew dry your hair before we showed up to this podcast, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
in the RV, that could be a roll of the dice, like you never know what's going to happen. Or you're in like a bathroom in an RV park drying your hair. And listen, the people that love it, love it. It's a good community, it's a good vacation, it's a good way to see the country. But like you said, I'm from Jersey. Like I went to law school in Virginia and in the Shenandoah Valley. And when I got there, we had a potluck dinner, and people were supposed to, you bring a dish. I'd never cooked anything, so like I think I brought like Doritos or something. But this guy from Texas brought some kind of meat wrapped in bacon. So meat in meat, right?
Sounds delicious.
It's delicious. And he's like, try this. And I was like, all right, like, go big or go home, right? I'm in Virginia. So I tried the meat and I was like, this is pretty good. What is it? It was Dove. He was like, it's Dove. I just shot it this morning and it's been marinating all day. And I was like, what? Like a bird of peace? Like you went out and shot birds of peace and now I'm eating it like wrapped in bacon? This is bananas. It's like, I am from New Jersey. Like I think meat and Cheerios just like show up on a shelf. Like I don't have any like concept that you shot a bird this
I thought you were
morning.
gonna say duck, but I was not prepared for dove.
Dove. Like
I didn't even know you could eat dove.
I think they're like not the white doves. Like the when he explained it, it's like a wild dove, not the kind that gets released at weddings.
I feel like I need to Google this as soon as we're
No, I mean, this
done.
was in 2000. We didn't Google anything, right? We played Minesweeper and we didn't have Wi-Fi in our
Oh my
classrooms.
gosh.
So, yeah,
Was it good?
it was tasty, but like then it was like, oh my God. Like, but then you're kind of like, it's dead and marinated. Like me not eating it is not gonna
Did it
like
change anything?
revive this duck's or dove's life here. So,
I had
and
that
that
with a
was just one of
rabbit.
the many, many, many differences of growing up in New Jersey and then spending some time in Virginia and then Alabama. It's
Well, I
like
was gonna say Virginia, that's not that far from New Jersey, but you were in Alabama. So if that was your
I was,
Virginia, I can't even imagine your
yeah.
Alabama life.
So I was in Virginia, but I was in like the Shenandoah Valley. So I was not near DC. We were like pretty far southwest of there. Lovely, lovely people. Like I really would not trade. That's why like the first opening question was a little tough. Like the experiences that got me to my career, I would not trade. Like I loved my law school, the friends I made, the experiences I had. I lived in Alabama for 1 year. I had a 1 year federal job there. And that was culture shock even after taking the baby step of going to Southwest Virginia and then down to Alabama as someone who had grown up in New Jersey. Like even my car, when I took it to get serviced, they were like, what is wrong with your car? It's like, I don't know. It was because of all the rust from the salt and the snow. in the north, they don't have that in Alabama. So they were like, this is crazy. Like, your car is so like corroded. Where are you driving? And I was like, oh,
New
it's
Jersey.
New Jersey.
The turnpike.
Like they don't salt the roads in Alabama because it doesn't
Yeah.
snow. And then just like food, I remember one day someone's like, let's go to lunch. We're going to go to a meat and three. I was like, what? What
What's
is a
meat and
meat and
three?
three? I don't know. And the restaurant literally is you pick a meat, like brisket, pork, chicken, and then you pick three sides, collard greens, mac and cheese, like whatever. But it's like 4 pounds of food. Like, it's so much food. And to eat that for lunch, it's like a food coma. And the cornbread down there is not like cornbread we have here. It's not sweet. It's like real cornbread. And you can get it like crackling, which means it has pork rinds in it. And I'm sure maybe some of your listeners are like maybe from Alabama and they know better than me. But I mean, we had so much fun. I learned so much. It was a great job. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, even though that's where I met my first husband, who was my ex-husband, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm really lucky to have lived in a lot of different places across the country. And now be a suburban mom, I guess. So,
I remember when you first went to and you bought the house in Bucks County and you were in Pennsylvania and you
mhm.
being like, I can't believe I'm now the suburban mom. And then you got a little white fluffy dog. Like
I
you really
did.
topped it off with like a cherry
Yeah,
on
no, I
top.
went big. I was like, let
Like
me
I think you
get.
joined a book club. I was like,
Yes.
oh my gosh,
I
wow.
have always been in a book club. I've always, even when I lived in Philadelphia, I was in a book club. And I'm still great friends with those people too, which was great because making friends as an adult can be hard. But yeah, I moved to the suburbs. I had to get like a car, like a that other people fit in, and isn't just like a clunker you're parking on the city streets. And then I
Right, because
remember
you
I
were in
felt like
Philadelphia for a
I
while,
was in
like living in it was
Philadelphia.
like living the single mom,
Yeah.
Philadelphia, like kinda
Hmm.
cool, trendy life, and then you
Yes,
went to
that's how I
suburbia.
would describe myself, absolutely cool and trendy.
Yes.
But then I got this SUV, and I remember, like, all I did was drive kids around, and I felt like I was a centaur, those mythical creatures that are, like, half horse, half man, half horse, except, like, my horse part was just my car. Like, because, like, my head would just I'd drive places, I'd stick my head out the window and, like, yell at a child to get in the car, and then I'd be off to the next place.
Oh my
And,
god,
like,
a
that was
centaur,
my
like a mom in a minivan centaur.
yeah, I had an SUV. I didn't have a minivan, but, like, that was, like, the car was a part of my body. Like,
Oh
that
my
was
god.
me. So, yeah, but
I
now
think
one child can drive, so that takes some pressure off.
well, and I'm just going to as your friend, I'm just gonna encourage you that your family loves you, you have a great husband who loves you,
Mhm,
and I'm gonna say that now that you have one going off to college next year, this is your time to pursue maybe some of those creative interests.
mhm.
And that you can do that without so the question I would be asking yourself is, "How can I do that in a way that doesn't threaten my family members?"
Yeah.
Right? How can I pursue this in a way that's not going to make them nervous? Um,
Or just tell them to, like, buck up, campers, like, I've been in service for decades, and now you guys can make your own
yeah.
sandwich in the morning, Like, we were also talking a little bit about, like, kind of a learned helplessness that some of, like, older teens seem to have, and it's
Mhm.
like, well, that's a challenge too. Like, so am I, like, almost getting in my way and getting in their way in terms of, like, growth and development into, like, functional adults in society?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, I definitely think like it's a new time for me. But I lack the confidence I did as, a 17, 18, 19-year-old when it was just like, I'm smart, I'm doing things like blah blah blah. Now it's like I've been beat down a little bit. Like, even
Mhm.
though my life is great, we all go through some stuff, and it's like, do I want to put myself back out there again?
And I
So,
think what's so interesting to me is that, Meredith and I have similar stories in the fact that we both ended up in as single moms, but very different stories as far as like where that led us and like
mhm,
struggles and, that kind of
mhm,
thing. And obviously just even career choices and all of that. And so it's a reminder to me, it's very easy for me to look at you in your life and be like, "Oh my gosh, Meredith just hit the lottery." Like she, her life worked out so great. She ended up, reconnecting. She has a great story of how she reconnected with her. I'll let you share that, of how you
Mhm.
reconnected with your now husband, who I think is a great guy. I always say, on a scale of 1 to 10, you got a 12. And and yet even with that you just never know where somebody is feeling on the inside. You never know
Mhm.
where they're going through, on that, is feeling like, what is my purpose and what am I here for? And um, I think we all kind of look back and go, oh, maybe if I had pursued a different career, where would I be? Right? Like, what would I be doing? And how, my career was in theater. What if I hadn't gotten into a direct sales industry and I had pursued, and really gone after that? And I stopped doing that once I got married and wanted to have a kid, and,
Right,
all of that kind of stuff, and going, okay, where does that lead me now? You
right.
know? Um, but you do have a great, like, and I think this is becoming a little bit more popular story. So Meredith is living in this brownstone, and Emily would go to the hospital out at CHOP, and Children's of Philadelphia. And it worked out really great because Meredith lived 5 minutes away. So we would go do all of these testing all day and then get to go to Meredith's house. And our daughters are similar in age. They're about a
Mhm.
year apart. So it's great. I would get to see her. We would stay over, and then we wouldn't have to drive the 2 hours back. So I show up one day, and this will forever be a movie in my mind because this is just the epitome of who you are. And she's sitting on the couch, and we're going to order dinner. And you're like, I don't want to go out for dinner. I'm too tired. Um, do you want to order? You were like ordering pizza or something. And you literally had like an iPad or a phone, and you were like just scrolling, ordering. And I was like, yeah, okay. And you're like, yeah, I'm just really tired. And as you're scrolling, and I haven't seen you now probably for 2 months or so, and she's scrolling, and all of a sudden I see this giant rock on her hand. And I'm like, "Wait, what? Are you engaged? What's going on? Like, what is happening here? Like, you're worried about pizza. You have a ring on. Like, what's happened?" Like, there must be. And literally, as you're scrolling, you do not look up. You're scrolling. You're like, "Yeah, I'm engaged. I'm also pregnant. I'm having a baby. Do you want like pepperoni on that, or what do you want?" I mean, that was basically and I'm like having this like meltdown of like, "Wait, what's going on? What are you talking about? You're pregnant. Who is this guy? You're engaged, and you want to know if I have pepperoni?" And I felt like that was the epitome of who you are. Like, it was just this, yeah, major life changes all happened in 8 weeks. Nobody knows what's going on, but well, garlic knots? Do we want garlic nuts too?
We got mozzarella sticks. We did get
Mozzarella
mozzarella
sticks.
sticks.
But this was wild to me. And this is where it's so funny because on one hand, you're so traditional. You talk about having made all of these traditional choices. And then on the other hand, you're like off the deep end on some
Yeah,
other
no,
ones.
I am like a woman of extremes, right? And like if you like my first marriage, I eloped. I didn't even have a wedding. Like, and then my second marriage is to my college boyfriend who we dated for 4 years. We broke up for, traditional reasons that 22, 23, 24 year olds break up. I don't remember the exact age. And then we didn't talk for, I don't know, 10, 12 years. And he got married and I got married. And then I got divorced and he got divorced. And he emailed me after that. And the rest is history. We've been married now 10 years. 10 years? Yeah, 10 years in last November.
Wow.
I have to sometimes, so he's Jewish, so we have a ketubah, which is a
Hmm.
Jewish marriage contract. And when we first got it, he sent it to me and it was in Hebrew. And I was like, I am not signing that. I cannot read it. I
I'm an
do not
attorney. I don't
I do
sign
not know what
things.
it says. I was like, I cannot sign that. So we had a English ketubah made so that I was comfortable with the language. And I do admit sometimes I forget our wedding date. So it's on the ketubah. So I have to go read it around, like Halloween every year just to make sure I have the date right. I think it's the second. I'm not sure though.
Oh my gosh, that is so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Well, and I do remember because you weren't there one night. I guess I went with your husband and the girls out to dinner. And because I was like, wow, you went from like single bachelorhood to like pregnant woman with having a girl, another girl. Like,
Mhm.
that's a big life change all at once. And he was like, yeah. You know? And I was like, "How did you feel comfortable?" Like, we were talking about his divorce and, like, finding somebody, and he said to me, he's like, "Oh, as soon as I got divorced," he's like, "I looked Meredith right up." He had a plan, like, it was like, "Okay, this isn't working, like, I remember this one, I am going back to her," and I just thought it was so sweet that he was really like, I wasn't wasting any time, and something to the effect of like, I wasn't going to let her get snatched up again kind of thing,
Oh, well, I
you
was
know?
not in danger of being snatched up. As you know, my dating life was not, not gangbang. First dates, yeah, I could do plenty of first dates. It was like second, third, like, is this someone that I could have a meaningful relationship with? And the answer was always no. And I think it was always supposed to be Jeremy. Just our timing was bad. You meet someone when you're 20 and you have a life to live, and it doesn't line up exactly at the time it's presented. And, like the traditional values, like my parents were like, well, why wouldn't you just marry him at
Mm.
22? And it's like, well, because I'm graduating magna cum laude from a top 20 law school. So why can't I just like go do what I trained to do? Like, why do I have to follow him? And it just created some tension. And I think if I had married him back then, I would not be as good a person as I am now. I think I needed that time to stand on my own 2 feet, to take some knocks, um, solve some problems on my own. Um, I don't think I would have liked who I would have been if I had just like gotten married and kind of had this cushy life earlier than I did.
Mm.
So it all worked out in the end.
Well, and then you have 2 daughters now, one you wouldn't
I
have
do.
had. I think
Yeah,
that's
they're
one
great.
of the things that when people say, like, "Do you regret, that, both of us didn't maybe make the best choices in our first
Hmm. It's
husbands?"
fair, fair.
But we got 2 incredible kids out
Hmm.
of it, and so you kinda go, "Well, how could I have made a different choice? Because I wouldn't have had those kids." Like, I wouldn't have had Emily, you wouldn't have had Jillian, like, I would go back and do those choices and deal with those crazy psycho exes just to have those, kids. But what's wild is that Meredith actually, her husband, Jeremy, is in my wedding album because I got married
Yeah.
really young. They were still they were still dating in college, and so we realized year later, "Oh, I have pictures of you guys from the first
Yeah.
time around at my wedding."
Yeah. It's funny, a lot of people do. Like when he turned 40, I was like, "Oh, I need like pictures from when we were younger." And it's like, people I haven't thought of, and I'm in the picture because it's from 1999, when
Mhm.
we were in college. Or like my parents dig out stuff, and because my mom loves Jeremy more than she loves me for sure. Um, like she
Everybody loves Jeremy.
Everybody loves Jeremy, but she would Jeremy gave her like a bamboo plant right before we broke up. I don't remember why. And apparently she prayed over that bamboo because like they're hardcore Catholic, right? Like there's a saint for everything. And so
And there's
she was
apparently a
like,
bamboo
yeah, so she was like, okay, I'm going to pray over this bamboo plant that Jeremy comes back into our lives. And apparently she did that for years. And then when my grandmother died, so when I got divorced from my first husband, I had eloped. I didn't tell my grandmother right away because again, like full on Catholic, no shortage of guilt, laying on anyone. So my mom was like, "You have to tell grandma." So we went to her old folks' home. I said, "Grandma, I have to tell you, I'm getting divorced. Like that marriage." And she looks at me dead ass and goes, "It's fine. You weren't married anyway, because you didn't get married in a church." And I was like,
Oh,
"Okay."
alright. So
So
grandma was good.
yeah, I was like, I guess grandma's fine with this. So fast forward to like 2013. My grandmother was 93 and she eventually did pass. And so she dies. And a couple months later, Jeremy emails me. To this day, my mom is convinced it's because of Midgie. My grandma
Mm.
Midge went up there and she like brought the bamboo plant, like talked to God, like made it all happen. And so
Aw.
that's why he's in her life, which it makes it even
Right.
funnier that he is Jewish. Like
Yeah.
he is not Catholic, and I still was not married in a Catholic church. So,
Oh, I actually love that story. I
yeah.
love that. Well, I could sit and talk to you for hours and hours and hours. But I first of all, I hope that all of you have a Meredith in your life. I think that it's really important to have people who I say there are people who know me BC, which is like before cancer, and BD, which is before divorce. Like when you go through major life things like that, it changes who you are. It changes how you show up. It changes how you see the world. And
Mhm.
I always really appreciate your friendship because when you're with somebody who knows you from when the time you were 14, it's like, you know, a different version of me. You know, the version of me that
Mhm.
wasn't affected by all of those things. And so
Right.
I always really appreciate that friendship. I think that's so important. And the fact that when I look from the outside, you do look like it's somebody who just has the perfect life. And I appreciate that you're very transparent in being able to will say that like we all have our challenges. Nobody has a perfect life. Like you said, like I get
Mhm.
in my mind having those thoughts. Um, and I think it's a good reminder for all of us that no matter who you're looking at, whether it's somebody that you're following on social media or somebody who's in your neighborhood or somebody at your job, we make up stories of, oh, this person has it so perfect. They don't have problems. They don't wake up where they hate their family. They, you know, their laundry is always folded and looks great, right? And that's not true. Like that's not true
Yeah.
for anybody, right?
No.
And I always say I think social media has made it worse because we see everybody's all their great stuff.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
it's not. You know,
Mhm.
I think that I'm gonna encourage you. I think that you should either start your own podcast or join an improv. Like, you'd be great joining an improv group. Like, you gotta find an improv group in Philly. You would be fantastic at that. Or start writing that screenplay. Like, you don't know, and I think so you may have not have heard me say this because we don't you don't do a lot of stuff that I do work-wise, but I have a big quote that hangs in my room, and it is my life quote, and so I'm gonna share this with you. It's how I always close anytime when I write to talk, but this is gonna be my prayer for you. It says, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left, and I could say I used everything you gave me." It's by Irma Bombach, and
Mhm.
I think that there's talent in you. There is funny, creative talent in you, and my prayer is that you do not let that talent die with you, that you do something today, even if it's a small step, because you don't know where that small step is going to take you. Like
Mhm.
maybe you audition for an improv group, or maybe you join a meetup for screenwriters, or maybe you just do a small step that's going to fill your creative outlet because that small step is just going to push open this door. And I do believe, Meredith, that if you have these dreams or these desires in your heart and you know, that you're kind of they keep you up at night, they bother you, they kind of tick you off a little bit because you're like, oh, I always wonder if it's because there's something in you that really is meant to come out, and that whatever that is your gift to the rest of us. Like whatever that screenplay is your gift to the rest of us. And if you don't pursue that, then that dream dies with you. And we never get it. The world never gets that gift.
Mhm.
So I'm going to start bugging you to be like, what are you doing to just it could be the smallest thing, but it's almost like I picture like cracking an egg, right? Like you need that one little hit
Yeah.
sometimes and it will just ripple where you're like, I don't like how am I going to get from where I'm thinking to where I want to be? We'll just take
Yeah.
one tiny step,
Yeah. The
you
inertia
know?
of it all, and yeah, there's a lot of fear, and I think that that quote is very powerful. Like, I know that I have not lived up to my potential in a lot of different ways, and maybe it's time to do that.
Yeah.
So,
And the bigger fear, like, so the bigger fear should be the fear of if I don't.
right.
It's kind of like when
Instead of
I
if I do.
Yeah, it's kinda like when I first got into sales and I was, like, really young, right? And they would say, like, "Go out and talk to people and ask everyone." And I would be so afraid, like, well, it's so stupid when I think about it now, but it wasn't stupid. It was like, well, what if I ask her and she, like, laughs at me or is like,
Right.
"Oh my god, I can't," or says no, or, like, is like, "I can't believe you're doing that," or whatever. You have all these things, right? But then I would come home and I would literally pray and I'd be like, God, just send me the people who are going to like benefit from working with me and the people who are going to be right for my team and like send me the right people. And then I would go out and I would live my day and I'd see this really sharp girl and I'd see this person and I'd be too afraid to talk to them. But then I'd come home and I'd be like, God, just send me the right people. Right.
Yeah.
And then one day I was like, what if God is like sending me all these people and he's just like, listen,
You
you're
got
not
to talk
asking
to them.
them. You're not
Yeah.
talking to them. I'm going to stop sending them to you. And so I got to a point where I was more afraid of who I missed than who said no. Like if I asked somebody, like let's say I was online at Starbucks and I'm talking to this girl and I think, well, maybe she's the one that God is sending me, right? And I'd be like, hey, have you ever tried? And I would start talking to her. And if she was like, no, you crazy psycho lady, like I'm not interested, at least I can go home and be like, okay, well, that wasn't the one that God was sending me, right? Like,
Right.
and so I got more comfortable with I'd rather know that she's a no than not know, and what if she was a yes, right?
Like,
Like, I was more afraid of who was I missing that I was supposed to be connecting with. So, with that same kind of concept. I want you to be more afraid of what if I don't do this? What if I miss out on these opportunities? What if, because we don't know how long we're going to live. Hopefully, we'll live a very long time, but like, what if something happens where then you really can't pursue those things? And that regret is like
Yeah.
more painful than any fear that you're going to have to walk through to take a small step.
Yeah. Yeah. And like acknowledging that my time's not up. Like just because, you know, college and all your first job's over, like it doesn't mean you can't have a new beginning. So,
Yeah.
and look
Or
at
not
this.
even in the beginning, maybe just a step towards where you were already walking anyway.
Where
Everything
I
that
was
you've done
supposed
up
to.
until now has led
Yeah,
you to where you're supposed to be.
it all has added up. And look at that. I joined your podcast and I'm the one getting the advice and help.
You've given me a lot of very good advice in your life.
Yes.
You all need a Meredith in your life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're listening and you're like, I have a great opportunity, or I've done something like this, or I have a great thing, message me. I will pass it on to Meredith. Maybe there's somebody who's listening that you will be
Yes.
there's the right connection somewhere. Again, you just never know. Like, just, it's kind of like the basic rule of improv 101 is no matter what happens, the answer is yes and.
Yes. Yes, and.
Yes end.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I'm going to be like, what is your yes end? And you came to all my theater school stuff and would bring me flowers, and maybe I'll go to your screen debut and bring you
Maybe.
flowers. So there you
Maybe.
go. It'll be full
Yeah.
circle. So thank you guys for being here. If you liked our episode, please subscribe and help a girl out. Leave a review, because I know people really do look at that. So if you don't like us, don't leave a review. You don't need to help me at all. But if you liked us, leave a great review. Subscribe so you'll find another interesting person. If you have a great question for our wheel, submit that. You can email that or put that in the comments. We are always looking for irrelevant questions because we never know where the conversation is going to go. And Meredith, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being part of my life for all these years.
Thanks for having me. Love you too.
Bye, everybody.